The first time I heard the term resignation in a professional setting, I think I was like 16 or 17 during my years as a courtesy clerk, slaving away in the parking lot of the local grocery store. Fun times, Mr. Luckies, but I'm done. Peace out. There are literally thousands of reasons why people would straight up quit their job or career, far too many to name and not enough time to cover them all. However, something unique has been happening to the American public, and it is systemic. The Great Resignation, as it is labeled, has many Americans leaving their jobs in search of greener pastures. Good for them. This is actually a new term that has been coined very recently, only to describe the current trend in mass employees across many sectors who are voluntarily leaving their job, throwing up deuces, and telling their bosses where to shove it. There's massive speculation as to why this phenomenon is actually happening, and of course I do have my own theories as we discuss the big quit. So right out of the gate, we have the largest catalyst that is thought to be responsible for this surge and ongoing trend of voluntary unemployment, our very best friend, COVID. Now, the whole reason the COVID pandemic is thought to be solely responsible is because it has spurred more people to rethink their work environment than anything else. As COVID has become a continuous entity in our everyday lives, so does the need to stay at home and be more defensive when it comes to work, activities, consumption, travel, entertainment, etc., etc. Now, I can personally attest to this firsthand as someone who has worked from home over the last few years. In my opinion, the Great Resignation isn't just about COVID, but situations that were created and became a byproduct of the COVID pandemic. Number one on the list is teleworking. Now, teleworking isn't a new phenomenon. It's been around for decades. People have been working from home for a very long time. However, it hasn't become a normalized situation since March 2019 and has many workers rethinking their career choice and how they gauge their employment. You see, back office working professionals are not in end user facing positions or able to work remotely and still be proficient at their job. The impact of the stay-at-home order from 2020 to basically now has afforded many to alter their work environment and has enabled people to plan their active life around this. Parents find it easier and better on their family life, making things more convenient to stay at home. The reclusive introvert personality doesn't have to go anywhere, can just stay there. The person having a side gig in their home or condo, wherever at home, is more efficient to handle both. When I was teleworking, mornings were way easier. You save money on gas, dining out for lunch. It's just easier on the majority of people to wake up and already be at their office. What is assisting with this movement is, of course, what I believe the advancements of technology, file sharing from office software. Many people get company laptops, advancements in video meetups, computer cameras, all making it easier to work from home. Another angle is that businesses are actually promoting this idea. A lot of tech companies are taking advantage of having a mobile workforce during the healthcare climate, making it easier to adhere to state guidelines and promote a healthy work environment and flexible schedules. Crowds are actually foregoing the person-to-person business and are instead seeking out employment that allows them the comfort of basically just teleworking from home. The second item on my list is going to be, of course, I think one of the biggest contributing factors, and that is higher pay and, of course, job security. Now, during the initial stages of the pandemic, many companies were unable to adapt quickly enough to sustain their business model. Restaurants and the majority of the service industry were most heavily affected, as well as airlines. Companies lost a lot of money and many unfortunately went under. Layoffs were abundant and workers were forced to quit regrettably. This side effect of the state guideline of labor reduction was one of the reasons why many people didn't want to return to their jobs. Wearing masks all day, working with skeleton crews, people don't show up for work, and insane job conditions are just driving people to rethink their options. Case in point, there's a news article published very recently by, I think, a few sources where Chipotle workers were quitting in mass due to the overwhelming demand in online orders and lack of support from the business. There's just not enough to support basic operations, let alone a surge in online demand for the past 2 years. Now, this is only one example. There are dozens more like it. You see, in my opinion, job security is one of the major factors in determining where somebody wants to work. Consistently having high turnover positions that are subject to quick layoffs, high stress, low morale aren't attracted to people who have experience in the workforce. Ultimately, this has been predominantly in retail. Now, as some of you may know, in one of my very first videos that I did, I mentioned that I was in retail for about 16 years, or a long time to be in retail. Back in the day when I was first started in high school, I was very young, and I worked my way up the ladder to a decent paying position by the time I was in college. And many people who have the same exact experience are still in retail now, are realizing their worth and searching for careers en masse where they can grow and be a part of an intelligent workforce. Having good benefits, being part of a culture that makes them happy, it's just not about the money anymore. This might be a little hard to conceptualize, but a large portion of job security is actually working in a business that has solid internal structures. I'm pretty sure anybody watching this video, they've worked at a company that's just not there structurally. Now, this of course may differ depending on the type of business and where you work. In essence, it's basically just a pyramid of experience where the number of employees working at the top have the most experience, is highly certified, highly credentialed, are able to manage and be in leadership roles, train coworkers, but are limited in number. And people at the bottom are the exact opposite. A lot of people entering the workforce are numerous but lack a lot of experience, can't train, don't have credentials. Now, businesses in a general sense are having a hard time retraining talent at all levels of the pyramid. Of course, the experienced employees are leaving the workforce and looking elsewhere for compensation, forcing the bottom of the pyramid to move up rapidly and not filling empty slots to support current teams or operations. The whole thing seems to just fall apart. You end up with stores closing, signs for help everywhere, a lack of services, a lack of product and just help everywhere. You go into a business and it's just not the same as it was before the COVID thing. And the labor force dynamic begins to change for the worse, and the whole thing just falls apart. And lastly, we have number 3, which is the unemployment benefit increase, or the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Package. Now, before I even get into this, let me be crystal clear in saying that there's nothing wrong with collecting unemployment insurance. I've done it a few times before. It's there for a reason, it's there for a purpose. The employee pays into it. It's there as a safety net in case the employee severs their employment from their employer. It's there as a care package to help people who are separated get back on their feet. Of course, this I think is not as heavily involved as the other examples I gave earlier, but it's certainly a contributing factor once you play out the math a little bit. You see, on February 2nd, 2020, the PUA was passed as part of the federal assistance that gave various people affected by the coronavirus who are not otherwise eligible for regular unemployment insurance the option of collecting extra benefits on top of their existing benefits. So the PUA was among the programs established by the coronavirus aid recovery security, the CARES Act, basically, which was the $2 trillion emergency stimulus package that I think then President Donald Trump signed into law. This was basically seen as a hedge against any economic downside, and I can't blame them because this was a new phenomenon that the world has seen. So it was there to put as a downside protection, as a hedge against the COVID-19 virus, which basically allowed individuals and businesses to support themselves and use the extra money as an extension of their normal benefits. Now, some economists thought that this was a complete overhaul and would work, and it did to some extent. However, there is a lot of opinion that the Relief Act was complete overkill and far too broad as an assistance package, enabling many workers across industries to live completely off their aid money instead of it acting as a support, which was its intended purpose. In addition to their weekly benefits, a claimant would receive additional compensation of, at the extreme end, $600 per week from April 2020 to July 2020 and $300 per week from Jan 2021 to September 2021. Now, that would look a bit like this as yearly income. You would have $450 per week in pre-tax money, I think, plus 600 is about $1,050 per week. Times 52 is 54,600 at the extreme end. Now, if you want to take the lesser example, it's 450 per week plus 300, which is 750 per week pre-tax. Times 52 is 39,000. Now, to break that down, normal unemployment is right around 450 for those who have ever collected unemployment insurance. It's not really a whole lot, but it's there as a resource, it's there as a springboard. Now, to break that down, normal unemployment is right around 450 pre-tax, which acts to support recently unemployed individuals. With it, at the extreme end, 600 added to it comes to 1,050 per week. Now, to put that into perspective a little bit, as an hourly rate, the only thing we need to do is just a little bit of math. What that would look like is a bit like this. I wrote it on the screen. You find out how many weeks there are in a year, which is 52, times how much you make per week, which is 1,500, to get the yearly rate, which is 54,600. Of course, this is pre-tax. Now, you figure out how many weeks there are, how many hours there are in a year. You just take 40 per week times 52 is 2,080, and then divide that by yearly income, which is $26.25 per hour. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a lot to just be living off of not working. At the lower end, of course, it comes to, I think, right around $18.75, which is pretty good for unemployment insurance. Now, to solidify the connection to the Great Resignation, the only thing we need to do is take this example just a little bit further. Now, see, the current minimum wage in California is 13 per hour, I believe, in 2021, and 14 per hour this year in 2022. But overall, a lot of places, especially fast food and retail, are paying much more than that, but nowhere near the PUA amount. Now, as it is mapped out according to salary.com, this image shows how much fast food workers make in California, for an example, on average with a standard bell curve distribution with quartiles. So we can see the PUA acts in such a way that the rate of unemployment well above the 90% of all fast food workers. That's a pretty extreme example. So the most critical question, and one I've been ignoring up to this point in time, is why work? This is exactly where the criticism comes from, and rightfully so. There's no reason to work if you're getting paid not to work. There are no incentives to start work again if your employment is higher than your current standard of living. And of course, let me be clear, I can't blame them. If you're getting paid, $27 to sit at home and not do anything and not go to work because of COVID, what incentive do you have to start work that pays, $10 less than that? There really isn't. Now, to add into this, that the current percentage of retail workers are one of the largest in the American economy. And you begin to think and understand about the Great Resignation as a phenomenon and how much an impact it has on the economy once you begin to think about retail. Now, of course, there are other examples, other variables I did not bring into the video and not talk about, but these are the main three, in my opinion, that I think contribute the largest to the Great Resignation. But those are, of course, things that you have to take in consideration. There are other factors, of course, too, like the gig economy. Now, of course, that plays a factor, but I'm not going to save that. I'm not going to talk about it now. I'm going to save that for much later in another video. Now, that is all I have for you guys today. If you liked the video, kick the like button. If you want to see more videos just like this one, you know what to do. I will see you guys in the next one.